I'd consider myself relatively successful now that that's generating over $1 million in ARR and I'm finally able to reap my rewards via fat dividends checks. I'm writing this from the perspective of someone who is building an. At the time of writing this, I'm completely debt-free, I have 9 employees, and I'm in the process of getting a divorce. If we aren't doing 8 figures per year in a couple of years, I'd be really surprised. It's taken me 8 years to get to this point since first reading Managing Your Expectations so that you can persist through your journey is. If you do not properly manage your expectations need to evolve over time as your company grows. Start out aiming for small wins, and as you gain experience running your company you need to expand your definition of success. The ever-changing definition of your own success is what will propel you to higher revenue tiers in your business. I think that you have to earn your right to expect more from yourself, otherwise expecting too much from the start is setting yourself up for failure. Managing your expectations is an art in itself. If you expect too little, you might not get anywhere, and if you expect too much you might disappoint yourself to the point of quitting. When you begin your journey to financial freedom, you need to realize that you aren't going to be doing $10,000 per month right off the bat. The process to get there for me was long and hard. It took a little over 2 years for us to have our first $10,000 month. If you're hustling Amazon products, I'd hope that you reach this milestone before I did. If you have the expectation that you will be doing $10,000 a month after putting in a month or 2 of work, you are setting yourself up for failure and disappointment. The better expectation to have is that if you just made $1, you can make $100. Gradually increase your expectations over time as you get little wins. Raise your expectations a little more after each win so that you can reach your next goal. When I started out, due to the complexity of my business, we had trouble hitting $10,000 in a single month. What kept me going during the first few years were random $10 sales from a new customer every other day. These little wins were the small bits of validation that I needed to keep pressing on. $10 is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but at this stage in the process, it meant the world to me. If someone is giving you money in exchange for your offering, you're on the right track. New sale notifications and the dopamine hit associated with them was incredibly addicting. You may have to rely on these little wins for months or years though, so train yourself to see each new sale as a small echo that you're onto something. Use these echoes as fuel to keep going. Expect to come to a point where you are no longer getting that big dopamine hit from small sales. Maybe you've reached the $25,000 or M milestone. If you're selling a $50 widget, then you need 500 sales each month to get to $25,000 or M, which would come out to roughly 17 notifications a day. After a year of steady sales you'll have seen over 6,000 sales notifications. At this point they likely mean nothing to you. I think this loss of interest in small wins is of great detriment to you. Once you stop cheering yourself on for each sale, you may lose sight of the bigger picture and become complacent. To counteract this, you need to move to a new dopamine hit. What dopamine hit is that? Units per day. The higher your units per day, the more money you make, and the funner the game you're now playing is on a macro scale. Tracking sales analytics, visualizing units sold with line graphs, and trying to beat your best scores days is addicting. Use this game to your advantage. Consistently try to hit higher units sold numbers. You can play this same game with revenue, MRR, ARR, or any other metric that is most exciting to you. I don't have much to say on this other than that if you lower your expectations for yourself and you become complacent, you will FCK your business up. Once snow starts sliding on a mountainside, there's a good chance it's going to turn into a powerful and destructive avalanche. Don't let your complacency slide, or it could cause the avalanche that destroys your business. Fighting complacency is hard, and even I'm guilty of it. However, if you expect that it's going to happen, you can recognize it faster and prevent yourself from being complacent for too long. Anytime you're twiddling your thumbs or have your head in your ass is time that your competitor has to overtake you or widen the gap. I have no doubt in my mind that you will cross multiple deserts of desertion on your journey to your first $1 million. If you understand and expect that you are going to have to cross huge barren deserts, you can prepare yourself for it and recognize when you are in it. The great thing about deserts is that they often have an oasis. An oasis could be a customer cheering you on, a new contract with a Fortune 500 company, or an investment. The people who quit when in the desert of desertion probably didn't find their oasis in time. These sweet bodies of water will allow you to rehydrate enough so that you can cross the rest of the desert. You may find multiple oases throughout your trek across the desert. If you know in your gut that your business has potential, and you've made sales, do not give up under any circumstance. The desert of desertion kills more business ideas than anything else out there. There were so many times I wanted to quit. Society's expectation is that you are going to quit and rejoin the rat race. Have different expectations for yourself. Keep one foot in front of the other and press on. Stress is when a company gives you $20,000 out of the blue and then they email you telling you that they never got their product. Then, when they get the product, it doesn't work. Finally, when you are almost done with a solution for your first customer, another company gives you $15,000 and they are facing the same problems. This was a situation that actually happened to me due to some minor oversight on our back end but was a pain to unravel. I stressed out so much over that 2-day period where if I were older, I probably would have died from a heart attack. After this traumatic event I realized that stress is nothing but bullshit. It's nothing more than bullshit. Want to know why? Because the entire time the customers were understanding and forgiving of our mistakes. At worst, most problems are only going to persist for a few days or maybe even a week. Eventually you are going to solve the problem, and when you are armed with that knowledge, there's no reason to stress. I now have the experience to back up my expectations that problems will be solved quickly, thus reducing my stress levels. If you look back on stressful moments in your life, you just may realize that things panned out just fine and the stress was unnecessary. Starting and running a successful business is one of the hardest things I've ever done, but don't let that scare you away. The life that I have is so much more interesting than if I just sat on the couch all day watching the 19th rerun of The Office. You will sacrifice nights out with your friends, some relationships, money in the short term, and lots of time. Knowing that you are going to sacrifice so much is empowering because you can use these painful sacrifices as leverage to propel yourself forward. The plus side of all of these sacrifices is the reward. Financial freedom. Quitting your job. Intense satisfaction in knowing what you've created. Breaking free from the chains of debt. Not worrying about whether or not you can afford that cool new toy you've had our eyes on for a while. Building my business brings me great satisfaction at the end of the day and money is no longer an issue. Hopefully I've stressed the importance of knowing both what to expect on your journey and keeping your own expectations grounded with reality. There will be things that you cannot foresee or know to expect, but learning to manage your expectations you can get through any rough patch and excel when things are going great. I'm the type of person who reverse engineers the end goal into smaller, more manageable ones, but even then I feel like I did focus on actually celebrating the completion of small goals. I needed to read this. Thanks for the information. As someone who followed your thread, these words coming from you has inspired me to take action as we speak. Booting up the laptop and going to spend the next few hours working my way to the small wins. Then I'll go from there. This may be another. This post is honestly just plain truth, and I think more people who are trying to do business need to read and understand the things you mentioned. Thank you for contributed so much to the forum. Wow. This was a joy to read. Thank you for sharing your journey and the encouraging words on what to expect. It doesn't seem like fun walking the desert for 2 years to get to the promised land, but man, that sacrifice must be worth it. It's good to know what to expect, maybe mentally prepare for the journey and keep the promised land in sight. The day when you can tell your success story too. Thank you. Thank you for writing this post. I am constantly beating myself up because I feel so far away from my $1 million revenue in 1 year target when things are actually going okay. Love the idea of using different meaningful metrics to keep the dopamine flowing. It'll take a while. Just keep pushing forward and get those little wins for now. Posts like this make me miss the rep system. Great advice. Well done on a ton of hard work, dude. I am so freaking stoked for you. Congrats on the business and the great post. Just a little mod shout out, I think this one slipped under the radar. Well done and thanks for leaving breadcrumbs. I love the small wins and new firsts. It's important to celebrate each level up. Great write-up. This should honestly be marked at least notable. What say thou? This is gold rather than notable. It certainly did. Upgraded. Great post. Helps me to reset the expectations and mindset for our business.